This is episode 155, Built to Last with David Armerland. Welcome everybody here in Body and Mind Transformation by Custom Body Fitness. This is your health coach, Sandro Torres. And today I'm going to present to you an interview with David Armerland, a personal trainer who has decided to help a lot of people to stay in shape. And he wrote the book, Built to Last. And it's a great book. I really recommend it. It talks about how you can stay in shape at whatever stage of your life so you can be happier, stronger. And we had a great conversation. He taught us how to stay motivated, how to be motivated, the reasons why we are motivated and the reasons why we are not motivated, as well about how people are having difficulty to stay consistent with the program. He talks about why are some programs they are not realistic, they're too difficult to follow, and that's the reason why people drop out. So if you want to start a new program or you having difficulties on your program, it could be a good reason why you should listen to this interview. I got a lot of insight from him, so I really recommend you listen to that interview. So without further introduction, let's listen to the talk. At CBF, we know that for you to change your body, you need to change your mind. Exercise and eating healthy is only part of the plan. We care about our members as we care about our family, because our members become our family. It is not about competition, but support. It is not about being the strongest or the fastest, but about you defeating your negative self. It is about working together and making the task challenging and have fun. By the end, what matters is not how hard the session was, but that you take control of your mind so you can take control of your body. My name is Sandro Torres, and I'm happy you are part of our family. Welcome to Custom Body Fitness. Okay, welcome everybody to another talk here in Body Mind Transformation by Custom Body Fitness. This is health coach Sandro Torres. And today we're going to be interviewing David Armerland. Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Absolutely, yes, thank you.
He wrote a book called Built to Last. You can be happier, stronger, and healthier at any stage of your life. I'm paraphrasing that, but that's
correct.
Idea,
that's pretty
right?
much, yes. Yeah.
First of all, David, tell us who you are and what you got into fitness and helping people.
Oh, wow. I'm very multidimensional, like most people. I've been training all my life. I started training martial arts when I was 13. This is not what I do for a living, right? I'm a certified Taekwondo instructor. I've got a black belt in Wado-ryu karate. I've got a black belt in WTF Taekwondo and a second degree black belt in ITF Taekwondo. And I've done a few other things in between. I've done sports in between, like everybody else. I train and I lift and I climb and do everything which is physical, right? My career, of course, I train as a chemical engineer. So I've got a good grasp of thermodynamics, a good grasp of systems, logic, mathematics, and how things connect. And I sort of translated that into everyday life by working in business and search and marketing and all those things, right? But the connective thread of all those things essentially is us, human behavior. It's what makes us tick. That's what's my sort of fascination with things. So whether we talk about business or marketing or life or fitness, essentially we're talking about the same thing. Why do we do things? What is it actually makes us go out and do something? And what is it that also makes us not to do something? Why does our motivation go when we know we should be doing things? And when we take this into fitness, we encounter a very fascinating paradox, which is where built to last comes in. Logically, we all know we need to be fit. We all know we need to exercise a little bit, watch our diet a little bit, sleep well or as well as we can. Why? Because that's how we get to have an optimal kind of life where we basically feel good in ourselves, and then we feel good with the life that we have. And if we don't feel good in ourselves, we don't feel good in the world, we don't feel good in our communities and our families, and we're not really functional human beings in the full sense of the word. And when it came to fitness, the paradox is that we know that. There's an enormous amount of money that is spent every year to inform us about these things, from government initiatives and local initiatives. There's an enormous amount of money we spend in getting fitness equipment, fitness clothes, and gym memberships. And all that money we spend every year, and I think globally it's about $828 billion a year, which is an enormous amount of money, doesn't seem to move the needle. If we look at the statistics, they're pretty grim. By the year 2050, half the world's adult population is going to be overweight, or it's going to be clinically obese. If we look at globally what's happening in developed countries, about 35% of people exercise 3 to 4 times a week, never mind every day. So it's actually very, very small. And we need to ask ourselves, why is this happening? Why aren't we doing the things which we know are going to help us? And there are, as it turns out, very good reasons for that, which have to do with our own inner workings, how evolution has shaped us, how our brain takes these things into account, how our environment helps us or hinders us. And when you put them all together, then you realize that there are a lot of fundamental obstacles in our way, which we don't really see, that stop us from being the best part of us.
That's the question that I wanted to ask you next. Is that what do you think? If we know that we should be exercising and we know we should having an active life to have a better life, to feel good, why wouldn't do it? And you answer that there is some obstacles. What are those obstacles that are in the middle that don't allow people to see the benefits of being active?
Okay, that's an excellent question. It goes to the heart of how we make decisions. Now, we think that we are logical beings. We sort of weigh things and we decide between them. And the decisions we make are always driven by the facts that we have, which have a specific value to us, which we have actually calculated. And that's how we apply logic. But this is not how we operate at all. Every decision we make, we now know, has a neurochemical basis, which is driven by our emotions. And then we use logic to actually justify that decision. So when it comes to fitness in particular, there are two elements at work which work against us.
So first,
Yeah.
we are first emotional and then logical.
Yes.
Instead of first logical and emotional.
Yes.
So, and if I'm not misunderstanding you, I know you're gonna explain a little bit more. So my emotions dictate how I'm gonna behave instead of my logic. So I know that today I want to have I want to have a lot of energy and I want to have a good day. But because I feel depressed, I know if I go exercise, my day is going to turn out to be better logically. Yes. But because I feel depressed and because I feel depressed, I'm not going to go exercise. So if I'm emotional, then that means that I'm not going to go exercise because I feel depressed, even though my logical inclination is to go exercise.
100%. You hit the nail on the head. The best way to think about it is that we're actually feeling machines that think and not thinking machines that feel.
Yeah, it's a good way to explain it.
Yeah. So it comes down now to what you said, right? If you know that something is good for you, but you don't feel like doing it, how would you actually make yourself do it? And there are two things that work against us, which we need to understand. The moment we understand them, then we can start working to change them. What's working against us is that every time we think about anything physical, we have a natural aversion to it that comes from the neurobiological evolutionary past that shaped us. So basically, if we go back 10, 15, 20,000 years, and we live in a sort of, as an example, in a sort of prehistoric village, our everyday life is full of exercise, except we don't call it exercise. We call it life. You're going to have to walk to get your food. You're going to have to dig for your water. You're going to have to hunt for something to eat. You're going to have to climb and lift and carry, all those things. That's your life. To survive in that environment, our brain is conditioned. It's actually programmed to help us save energy. So you're not going to start the day with a 5-mile run just to keep fit. That doesn't exist in your world, because you're going to have probably to walk 10, 20, 15, 10, 15, 20 miles in your everyday life. So the brain is programmed to make you take as much rest as possible, because it's in the rest periods that you basically recover the energy that you have, and you conserve the energy that you already stored, and that allows you to survive every day, and day after day of survival becomes your life. So we have that. In the modern world, of course, that we live in, we don't climb, we don't hunt, we don't dig, we don't lift for our food. We wake up in the morning, we go to the refrigerator, and it's probably about 10,000 calories in there we can consume if we want, and there's nothing to stop us. But the mechanism which says, oh, you don't want to be physical, is still there. So we have that aversion. So that's one thing to overcome. So the second thing to overcome is that essentially, in order for us, which comes down to how we make decisions, how our motivation is structured, in order for us to do something which is difficult for us, we need to feel it. And I'll give you an example. Suppose that you know exercise is good for you. You know you need to exercise every day. You know that you have to do it at some point, but right now you're feeling great. So you don't, you're putting it off. And you say, I'm going to start next week. I'm going to start next month, probably at the end of the year, and I'm going to make a really good go out of it. We're really good at fashioning excuses that allows us to put it off. That's the emotionality. But suppose you go to the doctor today and he tells you, hey, listen, your heart is in a bad shape. If you don't start exercising, you probably have about 6 months left to live. What's the first thing you do? You go and exercise. You watch your diet.
I have 2 points. I kind of the first one I can recall it right now, but I have the second one. Let's see if I can recall the first one. But the second one I have, and this is why I understand your point, and this is why I see, for example, I see many of our members, they come to us. And some of them, for example, I can recall one of them, the doctor told them, if you don't exercise and eat healthy, you're going to die. The only thing he developed was diabetes.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's the only thing he developed, which is very easy to control as soon as he started exercising and eating healthy. Anyway, but he was so afraid, so emotional afraid, that he came to me and he said, you must help me. And within 2 weeks, he left his medication.
Yes.
And he ate healthy. He controlled completely his sugar. Diabetes was gone and he was healthy. But like you said, it was emotional. It happened that the doctor told me he's going to die. And it hit him so hard in the heart that he came to me very afraid. And that's all he needed to change.
Yes.
However, I can recall another member who came to me, and I believe she got a heart attack or close to get a heart attack, either or, I don't quite recall that. And she's supposed to eat healthy and exercise. And it was very difficult for me to continue that pattern to help her to change her habit, even though the doctor told her that she's gonna die, she doesn't exercise and eat healthy, and she got the heart attack. She still did not change. Does that make sense?
It does, actually, yes.
Now, it makes me think about a doctor, a Canadian doctor. His name is Gabor Mate. I don't know if you hear about him. He's a physician. He's well known about addictions, and he says this phrase, which makes a lot of sense. Is like many people need to hit rock bottom for them to change. Now, the question: what is rock bottom? For some people, it's losing an arm, losing their job, losing a loved one. That's enough. For some people, they lose their health, they lose their family, they lose their job, they lose everything, and they still don't hit rock bottom.
Yes, they have
right?
further to go. Yes, absolutely. And I
Continue.
think the two examples you gave exactly define the problem of motivation. We have to feel it, we have to touch, we have to basically link the emotionality of what we do into a sense of who we are, because that's what drives us. Now, if, for example, and I'll tie it into this, the person who came to you and he was afraid he's going to die, he realized he wanted to live. In order to realize that you want to live, you begin to understand who you are, what's important to you, why you want to live, all those things, all those values that go into our identity. Then there's no question about it. He'll do everything you tell him in order to get healthy. As he gets healthier, the reward system in the brain kicks in. He becomes better and better and better. His motivation is there to do everything he can. The second person came, pretty much the same kind of scare. But because the emotionality of it wasn't there, because she hadn't tied into, why do I want to live? We have those negative doubts about ourselves and negative self-talk that tells us, you're not worthy, you shouldn't be here, you shouldn't be doing that, which prevent us from making that connection, tying it into our identity.
So
that then works against us.
That pattern they have in their head, what they tell themselves about if they're worth it or not worth it, or what they should be living for.
Yes, that's exactly right. I mean, you've seen perhaps people you train, how their sense of identity, their sense of self-worth, their sense of value changes as they become fitter. Why does it change? Because they get a sense of control of their body, which then gives them a sense of control of their life in the world, which we know that logically is uncontrollable. There's so many things outside of us happening. There's so many things impacting us. In the best will in the world, we can't actually hope to control them. But if we control our body, if we are confident in who we are physically, then we're in a better position to deal with them. And that allows us to deal with stress better, make better decisions, make better life choices, build better lives, simply because we have that sense of control.
I never thought about it that way, because I know that I need to control my body. My mind needs to control my body. So in the mornings, every morning I meditate, because what my body wants to do, it wants to do everything. It wants to do all the work, and it wants to go exercise. It wants to do everything. So I need to set and control my body and say, you're going to relax here. You're going to be thankful. You're going to picture your day. You're going to picture your future. And we're not going to get up until we are finished. So I'm commanding my body. The same when I'm exercising. It doesn't matter if I'm in pain. Doesn't matter if I'm not feeling like it or whatever. I command my body and I say, you're going to do it. Doesn't matter what happens. You're going to be lifting these weights. That's it. Exactly. But I never thought about what you said. When you have some kind of sense of control of your body, you have some kind of sense of control of the outside world, even though you can control some external events. That's interesting.
And that then has a number of other implications. If you have a sense of better control of your body, and it gives you the perception that you better control your life, then you get stressed a lot less. And stress, which we can't control, causes inflammation in the body, which becomes chronic inflammation, which then leads to chronic bad health. You have high blood pressure, you have poor gut health, you have poor cardiovascular health, because your arteries are basically, your body's basically processing fat in a different way because of elevated stress, which leads to elevated cortisol levels, which affect how the body processes and stores fat. So all those things which are bad for us happen when we are stressed in a way that we feel we can't control. And we feel that when we don't feel we have control of our lives. But there's another element to this which is even deeper. And the moment we get into that kind of situation, essentially what happens? First of all, we feel stressed by the external world. But then as we get chronically ill, as inflammation builds up, our body gets stressed, our organs get stressed. They send a signal to the brain, which then amplifies that stress. And the brain goes into panic, stroke, survival mode. And what that means for us is that all the higher functions of the brain that we need in order to analyze what we experience shut down because they cost a lot of energy. The body doesn't know where we live. It knows that we panic. Every time you panic, if you're in a situation, again, 10,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago, where you have to run away for your life or you have to fight for your life, well, there's no time then to analyze things. You have to act. So the higher centers of the brain shut down and you go into action. In the modern world, we have the same response, except that we don't go into action. You're not going to fight anything. You're not going to run away from anything. So now we're in a double bind. We have stress on the outside of us, we have stress on the inside of us, and now we have also lost the capacity to basically say, stop, analyze this is not good for you. So then we get into a spiral, which is why a lot of people become depressed. That depression feeds on itself. They lose control of their body, they overeat, they overdrink, they oversmoke, they don't sleep enough, they get into really bad health. Other health conditions occur, diabetes, blood pressure, heart disease, and then they become really ill. And a lot of all these things, pretty much all of this, can go away through structured exercise on a daily basis in small amounts, which don't cost us a lot of energy, which allow us to reverse the process, allow us to say, hey, this is my body, I live in it, I control it. This is my mind, it lives in my body, it feels good. And then these small things, as they accumulate, become essentially the foundations of a healthy, happy life.
How will you help somebody who's in that cycle of stress? How do you make him understand that for that person to get rid of the stress, it needs to have control of his or her body?
You can't help them understand, because if you could help them understand, they'd be able to do it themselves. So what you need to do is you need to make them feel it. And you need to make them feel it how? Basically by getting them to be active in the smallest, easiest way they can. If somebody can only say, hey, I can only go for a walk around the block 3 days a week, that's great. If they can do that easily, that's great. If they can say, hey, I can wake up every morning and do 5 push-ups, 5 squats, I mean, that's nothing, right? But if you do it every day, then it accumulates. If you do it every month, there's hundreds of them a month. If you do it in the year, there's thousands of them a year. Those send a signal to the body to adapt. Those adaptations are positive, and then they feed on themselves and they lead to other adaptations and then other actions. So you always start small, because if you want to make too many changes, it's not going to stick. Energetically, it's high. A person who's depressed is incapable because they haven't got the energy. Even a healthy person would find it difficult to make a lot of changes. But if you start small, gauge the effect, build up a little bit more, suddenly you have a gateway towards a great intervention in our body and our mind.
Now that you explained that, what do you think some fitness programs demand too much? And give me examples.
Okay, fitness programs demand a lot for 2 reasons primarily, and they're linked. Usually, those programs take place in a commercial environment. Somebody has given somebody else money for their expertise and access to some kind of information, knowledge, or even perhaps a gym. The person who's paid the money has expectations of quick, rapid transformation, because they don't understand. If somebody comes to you and they say, I want to be as fit as you are, you say, great. You need to be able to wake up in the morning and do these activities for 20 years. Well, they're going to go away. because they're not prepared to do that. This is not the answer they want to hear. What they want to hear is that they're going to be as fit as you if you give them a program and they follow it for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, which is unrealistic. So we have false expectations from the side of the customer. And this comes from sometimes lack of understanding, lack of awareness, lack of knowledge, but also because the external world in the popular culture, in films and advertising, have fed this false narrative of rapid transformation. You know, you go and watch any kind of boxing film, and you see the boxer, you know, he starts off, he's not very good, and then over a period of 15, 20 minutes in the film, it's probably about 2-3 weeks of film time, he begins to become better, he's fitter, he's stronger. And it doesn't work like that. It takes years of work. But it feeds into that, right? It makes a good story. The second thing, of course, is that in any commercial environment,
that's why they opt for surgeries, for pills, for Ozempic, and all these shortcuts, because they want to see it now.
Yeah.
And they don't understand that like you mentioned completely, it's a lifestyle. What they need to focus on is changing the lifestyle, and the reward, the changes are gonna gradually come, and they're gonna see it gradually. That it's not gonna happen overnight. It's like in 1 month they're gonna see some changes, and the next month they're gonna see other changes. In 6 months they're gonna see other changes, but they need to continue with that lifestyle. And people, they want to just do everything in that moment, and then change their body, stop doing it, and keep that body.
Yeah, exactly. The thing that this is, you know, they think that fitness is a destination instead of a journey. And fitness is actually a journey. It's not a destination. You never really arrive. It doesn't matter how fit you are. You've probably been training all your life, like I have. And what happens? You reach a level of fitness and you're happy with that. And then you look ahead and the horizon is further away. Now you want to do more things. You want to run faster, lift more, move your body in different ways. So you're constantly chasing the horizon, right? We'll never arrive. A lot of people are not like that. They're like you said, they come in and they think, okay, 3 weeks. Can I in 3 weeks, can I have abs? Can I have big biceps? Will I be able to rock a beach body? And then the other part of the equation is that a lot of, and I'm being very careful here, fitness professionals have to make a living, and they have to work with the material they have. If somebody comes and says, you know, what can I have in 3 weeks? And they tell you their expectations. Well, you're here in a difficult position. You need their money because you need to survive. Okay, this is your job. At the same time, you need to try and softly manage their expectations, and you're going to do it gradually instead of telling them to go away because what they expect is unrealistic. So you're going to take their money, and then you're going to try and help them, and you're going to inevitably go a little bit harder, because that's how you send an adaptive response, adaptive signal to the brain from the body, so they can see some progress. And you say to yourself, okay, they're going to see some progress, and then I'm going to work with them, gradually ease them into that. You have this long-term plan. Most of the time, they have a short-term plan, okay, and things go wrong. But that's why sometimes we have these really hard programs, which are unrealistic in terms of the ultimate effect that they'll have.
So the two reasons why a program can be too difficult, a fitness program could be difficult, is one, because people are expecting fast, and second, because the trainer are pushing it fast because of the client expectation. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to the next question.
Okay.
How someone can work smarter to become stronger?
Okay, this is easy now, because the moment we say smarter, we understand that it's different to be just going harder. Going harder is easy, right? If we have 10 people and they all want to get strong, we give them a really hard program. What's going to happen? From 10 people, 2 are going to drop out very early. It's too hard for them. 3 are going to get some kind of injury halfway through. They're going to drop out. 1 more will probably give it up because different reasons. And 4 people are actually going to get through it and get stronger. So we'll have probably, in the best case scenario, about 40%. That's harder. Now, if we go smarter, Ideally, all 10 of those people need to get stronger. And how do we do that? Well, we can only do it if we incorporate in their lifestyle activities which help them get stronger and then add the training on top. And let's think about how it could work in real life. And I've got real life examples on this. There's a friend of mine who he used to drive everywhere. He started training with the pandemic because he's a little bit overweight. And he made one lifestyle change after we had a long discussion. And when the lifestyle change he made is that he stopped parking where he needed to go. And he started parking further away so that every time he had to walk 5 to 10 minutes to get to his destination, and then another 5 to 10 minutes to walk back. So it's 20 minutes every day for every meeting he had. Sometimes he had 3-4 meetings a day. He ended up, because he got a smartwatch, every single day he ended up walking between 12,000 and 16,000 steps. He got leaner and he got stronger. He didn't change the intensity of his gym workout, but he changed his lifestyle to help him achieve that goal faster. So that's smart. That's a smart way of doing it. It didn't cost him anything. It was just different planning.
Yeah, it was something into his lifestyle that he didn't come and disrupt his life. It was something achievable.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what smart actually means. I mean, we have bodies that are actually designed to work 10, 12 hours a day. And we can't work 10, 12 hours a day, because if we do, we're going to start breaking down. We'll have too many things going on. But if we factor in, if we basically embed exercise, physical activities into our everyday life, we take the stairs instead of the elevator. We walk to the supermarket and carry the groceries back. There's two good things about that. First of all, you can't get a lot of groceries. And second thing, you're carrying groceries back. It's something physical. If we walk to the neighbors, if it's further away, instead of driving, and make it a social activity, these little things, which are lifestyle things, we don't need to change clothes, we don't need to have special mentality, we just need to allocate a little bit more time, that's all. Then they cumulatively over the year have a significant impact on our physicality. And we see very visible changes over the course of a year.
Good. That I like what you say. I think that's smart.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Tell people who are not motivated how they can get motivated to go back to exercise or to start exercising. What are the things that they should start thinking or doing or practicing?
There are a lot of theories on how you can motivate yourself, but ultimately it comes down to this. Work out really who you are, understand who you are in yourself.
How can they do that?
Well, you have to have a certain amount of introspection. You got to say, who am I really? Am I a father? Am I a daughter? Am I a son? Am I a good husband? Am I a hard worker? Those labels come with a lot of expectations from the external world, and they are met by a lot of activities from us. And those labels also have an emotional value for us. It comes down to how we generate the emotion that we need in order to get motivated. So once you start understanding who you are exactly, then you need to understand why you need to exercise. You need to say why, because exercise is not the same for everybody. I mean, some people would like to lift, and some people would like to run, and some people just do some kind of team sport, etc. But that has to feed into the identity of who you are. If you don't do that, then all those things which I just mentioned are things which you're going to do maybe once a week, twice a week, maybe 3 times a month. Over the course of the year, you're going to do them maybe 20, 30 times. They're not going to help you. But if it's tied into who you are, then you'll do them all the time. And I'll give you an example apart from this. Suppose that you have a family, and in your head, you think, I'm a good father. What does that mean? It means you're there for your kids. When they act up, you don't lose your temper and shout at them, because that's not being a good father. You try to be understanding, you try to be supportive, you try to basically help them be the best they can be. Why? Because that is a good father. That's the label attached to that. And if that's part of your identity, you don't have to pretend you're those things. You actually become all those things that are a good father, because it's who you think you should be. It's who you think you are. If you are just a father, then sometimes you do those things, sometimes you don't. It's the same with training. If you think that who you want to be doesn't really reflect a physicality of you, a capability to walk with your grandchildren, pick up your kids, play ball with their friends, be physically there for them when they need to be healthy so that throughout their life you can support them. If it doesn't include that physicality in your mind, then you're unlikely to want to emotionally be healthy and fit by being active every day.
It reminds me, one of our members. It reminds me one of our members. He's still, because I see him around, and I wish I try my best to help him. And I see with all of the members, I see with them, and I listen to their story. I listen their motivations. I listen their emotions. I listen to the story, a lot of things. And this guy came to us. He was overweight. He probably weighed like 350 pounds.
Whoa,
He was like
okay.
5'8", but he was very active. He could do everything. He's a window cleaner, and
Okay.
he can get on the stair and climb and do the cleaning and everything, even though he's overweight.
Okay.
And I sit with him and we talk about a lot of things, and that's exactly what we were talking about. And he say, I believe the reason why, one of the things that I don't stop eating, and internally, even though I do want to lose weight, but unconsciously, probably I don't want to lose weight because I can do everything that everybody else does.
Yes.
Like, I have no limitations.
Yes.
So it reminds me of you saying that if you don't picture yourself
Yes.
with that body, he doesn't see any limitations, because he doesn't see any limitations why changing his body now. But he consciously wants to lose weight because he got the bypass gastric surgery.
Gastric bypass.
Gastric bypass.
Yep.
And he lost some weight. It was impressive, like 100, 150 pounds. But then he regained it back again.
Yes.
Like after a year. And you and I know clearly, because it's the lifestyle. We know that the body is not a problem. It's more than anything or lifestyle. That's clear. But anyway, it just reminded me of this member that he didn't see any limitations. Why?
Yep.
Why losing weight?
It's like people who know they should exercise. They know they should come to the gym. But right now, as they're sitting there, they feel okay. They're in their 20s and 30s. They may not be very strong, but they're not very overweight. They're okay, and they feel okay. They may not feel great, but they don't feel bad. So exercising now for them is something to do in the future. Maybe they want it, but they also feel this aversion to it, so they will not do it. We only flip it if we really feel it. I mean, I've been exercising all my life. At the end of the day, I'm going to go and exercise. And every single day, at the end of the day, my brain tells me, oh, you had a hard day, you got stressed, you have a lot of work to do. Why don't you put it off today? Every day, there's a little voice in my head. And then tells me, oh, tomorrow you can train twice as hard, which we know it's nonsense, right? It's not the same thing. Okay, so I have come to understand this aversion because I have felt it all my life. I used to do competitive taekwondo for about 10 years of my life. Every single day I'd wake up and my body would be aching. I'd go training and my brain wouldn't want to do it. And I'd force myself, because when you're competing, you have no, you got to do it. There's no out of it. When I stopped competing, I had to deal with that voice. And it took me a couple of years to stop stopping me. And this is the deal I make every time. I say to myself, okay, I'm going to go and train for 10 minutes. And if in 10 minutes I'm still feeling like this, I'll stop. And what happens when we train for 10 minutes? We train for an hour, right?
Yeah.
Because your mood changes.
To me, right now, my motivation has changed. But for me right now, when I go exercise, because I have a habit already, I go and usually don't want to go like anybody else, but I just go.
Yeah.
But it comes to the point when I'm burnt out and I don't want to be there. It doesn't happen often, probably once a year, and it's like a week or 2 weeks when it's hard for me. When I say to myself, what are you doing this? What are you hurting yourself? You don't need to prove to anybody who you are. You can stop right now. And you don't need to live heavy. Nobody's watching you. And then it's like I'm giving up.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I say, no, Sandro. As soon as you put lighter weights, as soon as you stop exercising one day, you're giving up. And if you give up today, tomorrow, it's going to be the same story. You're going to give up tomorrow. And then the next day, you're going to continue giving up. That means that you're dying. As soon as to me, it's more mental now than physical. Before it was my physical. Right now, it's mental. It's like a challenge. And I just do it. Like you said, I just go to the gym, start lifting my weights, and it's hard. I mean, the whole hour, it's hard. It's not like it gets easier, but you are into it. And you already started. You go to the second set. You go to the third set. Then you continue. All of a sudden, you just missing 2 sets. And it's only 2. You can do this. You do the last set and you say it's only 1. Just do it. You don't have to do everything right away. Just do all the reps. And when you finish, it's the best feeling. And I said the best feeling because even though you've done it before, it's like you've done it, but you don't have that struggle. And when you have that struggle, it's like that relief. Like you feel so relief.
Victory, right? Exactly.
The victory. Yeah, the victory of that fight that you had.
Yeah.
So I know what you said. I understand.
Yeah. You have done the smart thing. You basically tied your physicality to your identity. So, and that's a very smart thing. You're emotionally now driven to be true to yourself. And that's exactly, I mean, that is not easy. I mean, you made it sound easy. I know it's not, right? You had to do a lot of thinking, a lot of self-growth, a lot of development to basically create that image in your head that says, this is who I am, this is who Sandro is. And if you say, oh, I'm going to miss one day, no, because Sandro doesn't do that. So you have done the work, and that's exactly how we get people to do that, to train consistently, because we know that consistency always brings results, but staying consistent requires that change where we are emotionally tied into what we do, and then the value of what we do, despite the difficulty, goes really high, and we want it. If we don't tie it, the value of what we do is little, and the difficulty is really high. And we don't want the difficulty, so we are willing to let that little value go.
Got it. Why is the reason that you start exercising?
Well, I started doing martial arts when I was 13. The reason I started back then only became clearer when I was about 50. So essentially, I had as a kid, my parents moved around. I was in Australia. My parents moved around states a lot. I didn't have friends because we kept changing states. Going from one state to another, although it's Australia, it's like a moving country, right? The culture is different, the traditions are a little bit different. So I was always kind of a little bit of an outsider. And if you're 13 at the time, that creates a lot of stress because you don't belong anywhere. You're always the odd kid. You're always the one with the, the funny ideas.
I had a similar life. Continue.
So for me, training became that safety valve. In the beginning, I channeled all my anger, all my sense of not belonging into that. And then around the age of 14, I discovered comic books at the time and identified with pretty much every superhero, right? Because they're all outsiders. They're all strange. They're all ostracized. They all have their own moral code, and they're all physically fit and they train. And that appealed to me. So that's when the bug of who I am physically began to take shape. So, that's why I started training.
How interesting. I'm gonna tell you a little story. It doesn't have to do with the conversation, but I think it's funny.
Okay.
Also my mom used to move. We used to move in the state where we live. We don't go to different state in the same state. But like you, I always was an outsider. And in the beginning, I was training karate, but I come from a very poor family, so we couldn't afford many things. So I only took a few classes. And I remember moving to this apartment and step out the apartment and start kicking and punching outside. And I'm from Mexico City. And I wanted to impress the kids around, whatever. And then one of those days, a little kid came over, but he didn't came over alone. He came with brothers. Of course, when they come with mom, and that doesn't mean that I mean, when you are a street boy, you need to defend you one or the other way. But I feel intimidated because they were all, and they say, "Why don't you fight him?" They tell me, "Why don't you fight my little brother?" And of course, I'm not gonna say yes, because if I fight him and I beat him up, then the other brother will beat him up. Now my perception of fighting is completely different, and I'm not an expert in martial arts or anything like that. But I think it's a funny story. So he came and punched me in the face, and I only cried because I'm not gonna fight all those kids one by one or whatever. Anyway, and that's how I start getting into know these people without funny story.
Right. See, all these things. I mean, it's weird, right? And I'll tell you something else. When we think about fitness, if we think about the pinnacle of fitness, usually it's top level boxers or Olympic athletes, because they are at the top of their game. How they look, how these people look, which is amazing, is only a side effect of the work they have done. And the work they have done is highly motivated by how they feel. And I'll give you one example, right? The fastest man in the world, Usain Bolt, he still has the Olympic record for 100 meters. He has curvature of the spine, and one foot is a little bit shorter than the other. And he got into training in order to be able to basically relieve his body from the strain to his spine, and in order to be able to maintain his health on that front. Sure, he became a top-level athlete as a result of all that, but that's not how he said. He didn't think of himself as, oh, I'm going to go and become the top-level athlete. He started like that. If we look at boxers, if we look at Michael Tyson, basically a kid from Catskills, New York, living a pretty rough life, in trouble with the law, who channeled that aggression into boxing. So they all have that emotionality. This is what makes them exceptional. Sure, they look the way they look, and it's amazing. But anybody who's willing to do that work will look equally amazing. In order to be willing to do the work, you need to have the feeling. You need to have the emotion that drives you.
That's why the saying of having that firing desire,
Yes,
that's that
absolutely. Yeah,
emotion. If you don't
yeah.
have that, so then it's not gonna happen. Doesn't matter
No,
your strength, doesn't matter who you are, what you know, whatever. You need to have that
yeah.
desire,
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. So
burning desire.
that's what,
That's what I want to say. Burning desire.
yes, that's exactly what drives us. That's what makes us fitter physically. And we know that you can't change physically if you don't also change mentally and psychologically. So, but you start with the physical side because that's the easy one, that's the obvious one. And then you start changing inside. Okay, Mike Tyson stopped being angry. Usain Bolt stopped worrying about being the kid with, the curved spine. But they channeled that into this. That's their identity. That's their emotion.
Wow. Okay, I have two more questions for you so I can
Okay,
be respectful of your time. Let's the next one is, what can we find in your book? Why our audience should be reading your book? What they will learn on your book?
excellent question. Okay, now most books on fitness will give you a prescription and they'll say, follow this and you're going to be fit. And I'm not doing that. We know that doesn't work. It doesn't work because every person is different. Their past is different, the emotional connections are different, how they see themselves is going to be different, so on. So really the book itself is a tool that helps you understand better who you are. It helps you understand how you can see fitness better for yourself. It helps you understand why you should be doing some things for yourself. And then it helps you show you how to do them. So basically it's a blueprint that's customizable to your own needs. If you're 15 and you pick it up, it will help you. If you're 50 and you pick it up, it will help you. The 15-year-old and the 50-year-old have different needs, different perspectives, different ideas. So all they need is the blueprint. They don't need a prescription which says do all these things and you're going to be great, because it's not going to work equally for both of them. So that's what's inside my book. That's why it helps so many people differently.
Perfect. Everybody, go get the book. You can get it on Amazon.
Yes.
No, what else? You can get that book?
Well, you can get it in pretty much any bookshop, but you can also get it in Blackwell in England. You can get it in Barnes and Noble, Amazon.com, obviously. And I think it's going to be in Target soon, so you should be able to order it. But if you go into any bookshop and order it, they can get it within a couple of days.
Nice. The book is called Built to Last: How to Get Stronger, Healthier, and Happier at any stage of your life. Great,
Yes.
by David Armerland. Um, where people can support you, find you.
You'll
You
find me, yeah, you'll find me at davidarmerland.com. And then if you Google me, all my socials come up.
okay? So just search for you online, and they're gonna find all your social.
Yes.
Perfect. And last question, David. What's your best weight loss tip for people who want to start losing weight or who are having a difficult time losing weight?
Walk. Absolutely walk. And I'll tell you why. Um, it comes down to the way the body uses fuel. We know that essentially at a cellular level, whether it's our muscles or our brain, the cells use the same thing. They use adenosine triphosphate, ATP. ATP basically is then replenished in the body by carbohydrates, sugars in the blood and the liver. And when those are exhausted, it's replenished by fat in a process that's called lipolysis. Now, when we walk, the energetic cost to us in terms of walking is relatively little. It's nothing like running. But because it's little, the body doesn't go into a high state of alertness. And it uses for walking fat as opposed to carbohydrates. And there's a good reason for this. And it goes back to the past, right? 10,000 years ago, you're going for a walk. Your body says, okay, are we in danger? Well, we're not, because you're walking. Because you're walking, it's going to use a little bit of fat reserves. A little bit of fat gives you a lot of energy. So you don't burning a lot, but you're not tiring yourself out. And if you need now a lot of energy, because as you're walking, there springs in front of you a tiger, and now you have to fight for your life. That's when you use the carbohydrates that you have stored in your body. So it keeps those, and walking actually burns fat. The thing is, with walking, it's not a massive transformation, but over time makes a massive difference.
Nice. Just like compound interest.
Yes, exactly. That's a great example.
Perfect. Thank you so much, David. Thank you for this great conversation. I learned a lot from you. I'm looking forward for our audience to listen to this conversation and get your book. I really appreciate it, David. For now, let's say bye. Thank you.
Take care. Take care, and thank you.
So there you have it, everybody. I hope you liked the interview. Get the book, Built to Last. Stay happy, strong, and healthy at any stage of your life. Get the book. You're gonna get a lot of things out of that book. I really like the things that David had to say, everything that he taught me, and I really appreciate his time, and also the things that he has to say about staying consistent with your program and how you can start slow. You don't have to go to a crazy program and start killing yourself with heavy weights. You can start walking. That's a good beginning. So thank you so much for continuing with us. For now, your health coach Sandro Torres says bye. Not before saying that you need to stay close to God, mentally and physically healthy.